Like credit crossing.
That's rebel.
Selling like.
That was a nice introduction.
That's really first.
So let's just talk really quick about leasing. Leasing is the fastest money that you can make in real estate because you can literally have nothing going on right this second. And you show someone a property for lease. They want it, and then in a few days, hopefully, you get a check. I mean, it's that quick. With sales and purchases, you have to wait an escrow period. With leases, there's no escrow period. So that's awesome. So if we are representing a tenant, then all we really need to do is send an application to the listing agent. Okay? The listing agent is usually the one that's going to do all the paperwork. Now, I go into every transaction thinking I'm going to be the one doing the paperwork. Okay? You won't be disappointed if you have that attitude going into a transaction. Just think you're the one that's going to do the paperwork. Now, if the listing agent wants you to do the lease, great, because you're doing it in your client's favor, right? So it's really to your advantage to do the lease. Now, leases take a lot of time. It's time, right? It's easy, but it's just time. It's just going through the lease, looking at the terms, reading through it. But we'll talk about that. I want to make sure that everyone, though, can send an application to their client, because that's the most important thing if you're helping someone. So I need you to be able to send out an application. So if you log into the MLS, let's see, let's log in.
Excuse me, there is no possible you log in with your laptop and computer at the same time, yeah?
You can, maybe not. It might log you out of the first one that's already logged in. It might. Possible.
You already have an app already, right? Or not yet?
An app?
Yeah.
There is an MLS.
Yeah, I saw something like that, but I have a Samsung. I don't think that's for Samsung.
I know that Vesta Plus, there is a Vesta Plus. Now, anytime that I go to the MLS.com on my browser, it asks me for a full site or mobile site. Always go to the full site.
Okay.
It's very hard to navigate the mobile site. I've found personally. Me too. It's very hard. You're not going to get what you need, and then you're going to have to go back to log in as the full. So it's also hard to operate the MLS from your phone altogether. This is what I get for having a different password for every website. Oh, by the way, regarding passwords, there's this thing called passkeys. That is the safest way to have passwords. With passkeys, only the public key is stored on the server you're accessing. So if someone hacks that server, they're only getting the public key. Your private keys are never stored anywhere else except on your computer. So that's pretty cool. All right, if everyone is at the MLS homepage, now all these boxes on the homepage can be changed. Like everything can be dragged and moved. There's page options here. You can edit the layout in the upper left-hand corner. So all we're looking for right now is this box called Quick Links. Everyone just find that box called Quick Links. And then there's 5 pages of Quick Links. You're going to go to page 2. And on page 2, there's a link called Rent Spree. So click on the Rent Spree. And if you have already signed up for this, let's log in. Otherwise, you're going to sign up.
Wait, can you back up there again?
Yes.
Quickly.
So on the MLS homepage, there's a box called Quick Links. And on page 2 of the Quick Links, there's a hyperlink called Rent Spree. So Rent Spree is a third-party company that is affiliated with CAR now. I used to have other private companies to do rent screening for tenants, so now it's so easy for anyone. I used to have to subscribe to get full credit. I had to pay a monthly fee, then I had to pay per application. So then I had to pay the fee myself. I had to collect it for my tenant. It was real pain. With Rent Spree, you can, I'll show you. It's pretty cool. So sign up. So the first time that you sign up for this, you're gonna create your username and password. And then when you get through that, I want you to press, there's gonna be a button called Screen Tenants. Oh, fantastic. I don't even remember what this is.
Is there a difference between directly signing up from Raspberry or through MLS?
Is there a difference doing it direct or through the MLS? I don't know the question to that. I don't think there's a difference. Because it's gonna ask you for, it's gonna ask you for your realtor number, I mean, your DRE number.
Can you go over that again, JJ?
Yeah, that should work. Going back to your main.
Homepage.
Plug in. Close that. Scroll down. Scroll down.
Hey,
I think you wrote k.com.
Just the,
I got it. No, I got it.
link.
Thank you.
Okay.
I got it.
Yeah.
So what I want everyone to do is
Yeah.
go to, click the start screening request. Once you're logged in, click start screening request.
It's gonna be.
For me, it's gonna take me straight to this page. For people that are just signing on for the first time, it's gonna ask you to fill out your name and your address, I think. So make sure that you do that.
This is what I'm getting though.
And it's screening, perfect. And then start screening. It starts screening. What's that blue button say? You're right in the middle.
Screen tenants.
Screen tenant, screen tenant. Hit the screen tenant button. And then not there.
Accept the service agreement.
Yeah, you have to accept the service agreement, of course.
Went through this.
Okay, perfect. Oh, you're already in it. You're in it.
Oh,
You're
this
in it.
is where I
Yeah,
want
so
to
go
make it.
And
home.
then put in all our info in here.
Yeah, you're gonna have to put your info, you're gonna have to put your name and your address because you're getting credit information from people, right? So this is with TransUnion, and TransUnion just needs to know who you are that's getting credit information. So it's just your name and address, that's it. I'm gonna grab the other stuff that printed real quick.
I started at the beginning of the.
Oh, it's on page two.
On
page two.
Yeah.
And then you'll see
loss.
Separate by.
I meant to
Page two, rent school.
Is it like a slide? Or like-
And we sign up
like a
here?
different-
Yeah, sign it. I know, I already signed up, I forgot my password. So.
Did you put your TW Gmail or your?
I'm not sure, because I've done this with at Caldwell, so.
Should be quick links, yeah. Yeah, go to quick links, and then the next page, it says rent spree.
Is everyone at that page?
This application fee will be paid by.
Yes, so the application fee gets paid by the person that you're sending it to. So you don't have to worry about collecting money. Yeah, you don't have to worry about anybody. They're gonna get, so basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna check the standard rental application. That now, if you only check application, it's not running any credit or background check. That's just the application. If you add the credit report and score, it's automatically gonna add those extra things. It's gonna do a credit report, it's gonna do a criminal background check, and
That's one, can you see, is that an MLS, that one?
this is rent spree,
Oh, rent is free, oh, okay.
rent spree.
We don't want the credit report and score.
We do, we want everything. Sometimes if your client has an issue with running their credit, then you know, they may not have a social security number. I don't know what the situation is.
Take it off and then you add it later.
Who doesn't have a? Yeah, I have more printing. Yeah, I have more printing.
It says application.
I don't have it.
I've got
By the tenant,
Applicants.
by the tenant, by the applicant. Yeah, by the applicant.
Should remember.
Yeah, definitely not you.
So you'll run the report later, you don't put it here, so they have a choice.
So when we go on the MLS and we find a for lease property, then we're gonna show it to our client, right? So then we're having a conversation with the listing agent. What do you,
Yeah.
is it 11?
My phone's on silent too, and then I'll put
That's supposed to be two.
It's a test of the emergency broadcast.
Mine's not working. I'm sorry.
Oh, there you are.
Delay, a little delay.
Did anyone not get it? You're a secret spy. I want to know you.
I got it.
Um,
Did everybody on Zoom got it too?
everyone got it. All right. So now you need to talk to the listing agent. You need to talk to the listing agent and make sure that they're okay getting a rent-free application. There are some agents that will want to do their own screening. So, you know what? There are some landlords out there that have had really bad experiences with tenants. And, you know, look, it's always possible to doctor a PDF document.
Do they sometimes do that to voice application fees or?
No, this is about making sure that everything is accurate from they're really doing their own due diligence.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, it's easy to doctor a PDF. There are so many PDF editing documents. You can go in, change credit scores, change the red to green on negative credit. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do in PDF documents, so. Right, so that being said, you know, if a listing agent is insisting that they are the one that's going to run credits, then you only need to send the application to the other agent, okay? Just so it's a quick conversation with the listing agent. You know, is it okay? Should I send an application from Rent-Spree? Is that fine? And if they say yes, great. I think now that Rent-Spree has been around a while and agents have been using it, everyone's accustomed to it. So that's good. It's not a new thing anymore. Okay, so just real quick again, from the MLS, from the MLS homepage, I went to quick links, the quick links. I went to page 2 of 5, and then I went to the Rent-Spree link, which opened a new window. You're gonna log in or sign up, and then you're gonna press screen tenants, right? And then I'm gonna check that the applicant is paying the fee, sending a standard rental application and the credit report. The criminal background check is just, again, it's checking background. It's also checking if they have any prior evictions. When I hit next, now it's gonna ask me to send to enter their email addresses. So if I have 2 people that are applying, I'm gonna put 2 people's email addresses. So let's do brad@kw.com.
Yours had both boxes checked off.
Yeah, I've only got one
The only
blue box. My standard rental application is blue, but my credit.
You can't.
When you click on the.
Okay, when you click the
Check it, yeah, you have to check it. When you check it, two more pop
So
up.
it should be, they should all be checked then?
It should all be checked, yeah.
Oh,
When you click on the credit,
it brings
it
down.
brings up the other 2, right.
Okay.
Now, you can just enter, when you press the next screen tenants, it's gonna ask you for email addresses. You can also send by text message, you can send a link, share application link, so that's your link. You can just send that link to people if you want. So after that gets sent out, so I sent an application to someone 2 days ago. And it says here, you can see here, it says request sent, but they didn't do anything with it. So I hope I didn't lose them. They were looking at a bunch of stuff yesterday or 2 days ago.
What was that link that you sent?
I did that. I went through here and I pressed start screening request, which is exactly what you did. And right, this is just how you screen a tenant. Start screening request, applicant, make sure all are checked and then hit next. And then from next, I put their email address. That's all I did. I put their email address and I pressed send request. That's all I did.
This is the first request from my tenants.
Correct. You show your tenant a property for lease and they're interested in it. And then you say to the listing agent, I'm gonna have my tenant sign a application.
Before we go to see houses, can we have this ready and then share the link with the listing agent also? Do I have to enter any addresses here?
You can do this, you don't have to enter an address like that. If you are entering a lease listing into the MLS, it's going, now that you're signed up with Rentspree, it's going to ask you if you want to include Rentspree on your lease listing.
As the listing part, okay.
Yeah, so now I'll show you my listing, my per lease listing right now. I have, here I have a property.
I'm so sorry, like I'm a little bit behind of it, like I'm on this Rentspree page,
Yeah.
homepage. Do I have to click this screen tenants to go there?
Yeah. three tenants.
Come look at this
Yeah.
real quick. His computer is odd.
Okay,
He's going to screen tenant.
yeah.
You got a rent spree.
Right,
That's yeah, he's already logged in.
so yeah, I know he signed up because I signed
Yeah,
up.
he's already logged in.
Okay,
Hey JJ, I have a quick question from Zoom.
yes, your name and your mailing address, yes.
So are you gonna go over the application later? Will it show it?
I am not gonna go over the application because it's private,
Okay, well, I have a quick question then.
okay?
So for the part where you could put in multiple emails, let's say if you have multiple, like it's your lease listing and you have 5 people interested. You
Yes,
could put all 5 people there and it'll be
Correct.
individual applications.
correct.
Yeah.
I'm glad
And
you're bringing up having 5 people on a lease. Because if you're representing the landlord, it's very important that you put into your lease a clause saying that the rent is gonna be collected from one designated person. Your landlord should not be in a position where he has to get 5 separate rent checks every month.
Right.
Only 3 people are gonna pay, 4 people are gonna pay, 1 person's not gonna pay on time. There needs to be one designated person that the rent is being paid from and make that person responsible. That's my suggestion.
No matter
Thank you.
if tenants in common or.
If you're collecting rent, it should be 1 check. If you're collecting rent for multiple people, it's always gonna be a problem, always. There's no exceptions. I never use the word always, never and always, I never, but that's the point. It will be a problem. Okay, now I'm just showing you here, like this is my listing on Almont for lease. There's an apply now link here. So if you are signed up in Rentspree, when you enter your lease listing into the MLS, it's gonna ask you, do you want to include Rentspree applications? So it says apply now. If I click that, it takes me straight into Rentspree. So I think, like, let's pull up someone else's listing for lease and see what happens. So if I go to the MLS homepage and I'm just looking, quick search for leases in Beverly Hills, listing, lease. It's so active. Here's some active listings in Beverly Hills, Century City. Let's see. Okay, 12,000 a month. I'm gonna go into the MLS, see. There's no apply now link there. Search criteria there. So right now, I'm just seeing if how that works with other agents. I know that I have seen the apply now link on other,
It is very rare, I think.
is it rare,
It
really?
is rare because they want to, the listing agent wants to usually control the transaction and they say, I will send my link to them. I have my.
Really?
own
Oh, okay.
Rentspree.
So that's what you just have to ask. You just have to make sure that, oh, say here's something on Thayer, it's not my listing. And it says apply now. So I know this agent. So it says apply now, right? Now, I probably don't want to do that. I want to send the client my own link. So the advantage of sending your link, what I just showed you how to do, put their email address, the advantage to doing it that way is that you're the one that's going to be emailed their application. And then you can use that application. If they don't get that one, you can use it on the next one, right? So you have a copy of it. I'm afraid here it might go directly to the listing agent. I'm not sure. If it goes directly to the listing agent, you're not going to have a copy of it. Right? So I can clarify that with Rentry, but I just wanted to show you, this is all we need to do if we're representing a tenant and we are applying to a place. So usually the listing agent will be the one doing all the paperwork on a lease. Okay, CAR. So what I handed out is a lease listing. On a lease listing, you're gonna have to take pictures of the property just like a regular listing. You're gonna photograph the property and then you need to go to the property. If you're taking your own pictures, which I don't recommend, but if you have a really inexpensive listing, you don't want to incur maybe a photographer, but you do want good pictures. Make sure that you open all the blinds on the windows. Turn on all the lights. Hopefully the electricity's on, right? So that's just something to be aware of. And take the clutter out of your photos. Okay, so you have to create the listing. So in my shared folder, again, if you don't have access to my shared folder, just email me or text me and say, please give me a link to your shared folder, which I'll share with you.
And guys, I have a good photographer who's looking for work and she's pretty cheap and hungry, so.
There you go.
I'll do have a lower price, let me know.
There you go. So any photographer that you are gonna use, I just suggest that you look at their work. So just ask them for a link to some of the stuff that they've done. Just take a look at it, make sure you're happy with it. Okay, so we go to CAR for our contracts. How do we know what contract to use? So we have our own checklists at Keller Williams. So remember before I was talking about the KWVH virtual website? If you go to KWVH virtual, on the helpful links, there's going to be a link to approved logos, checklists, and disclosures. That link is going to take you to your shared Google Drive of checklists. In that checklists area, you're going to want to find the lease checklist. So here's the lease checklist right there. And that's the lease checklist. So you print this out, this is what you're going to need. So for contract wise, you need the lease listing agreement. That's pretty much, again, I'm going to show you what I have in mind. So, okay, going into CAR to get to the contract. So I'm logging into car.org, and then I have 3 links that I need to click that say transactions. So I'm just following the word transactions. So I'm logging into CAR, I'm going transactions. Again, down here, transactions, access. And it's going to validate me. And then again, I'm going to say transactions, access, transactions. Continue to transactions. Okay, in my transactions window, once you're here, you can create a new transaction. So you can press new. If you press new, it's going to ask you to name your transaction. I'll just show you real quick. I'm going to press new. I'm going to select new lease. And then I'm going to name the lease. It's usually the property address. Then I'll hit residential. And then I'll hit save. That's it. That's going to take me into my transactions. So for this class, I prepared this one. It's called lease class. Now in my shared folder, there's a folder called contracts. In the contracts folder, I have a folder called leases. And everything I'm going over today is gonna be in that folder, okay? There's someone that is not here that told me they have an online AI assistant. Anyone heard of this? It freaked me out. She said, I won't be at your class. I can't make it in today, but we'll have my AI assistant take notes and watch the recording later.
Oh my God.
I said, your AI assistant? Holy cow. She said, it's this cool app that will join the class for you and take notes, LOL. Called AI Fathom, FATHOM. So, there you go. Our jobs are not too far away from being eliminated.
Yeah.
AI Fathom,
FA?
AI Fathom. All right.
FA?
AI Fathom. I don't want to take you guys away from this class. I'm just sharing, like, the world is, you know, technology is advancing so rapidly. So Wallack was interviewed. He was asked a question of, what do you picture 20 years from now? And the first thing he says, if we still exist,
Oh my God.
because technology is advancing so fast, we're gonna blow ourselves up. Okay, back to the contract. So in the documents you're gonna need for the lease contract are here in that checklist. So this is the KW checklist. This is everything you need to get paid on a lease. A lot of these forms are inside the lease agreement. Okay, but what we need now, we're gonna go meet with our landlord and we need to get our lease signed. So we need to have lease listing agreement. We're gonna add an agency agreement. When you add the lease listing agreement, and when I say adding agreements, I'm talking about going over here to all forms. This is where you add your forms. Okay, so if you click all forms, I can search for forms here. So lease listing, I'm gonna just type lease listing and it'll pop up right under it. I'm just gonna click it, it'll add it here. So I'm adding a lease listing, I'm adding an agency, and then there's a box in here that's gonna be for a key safe lockbox addendum. It used to be in the city, we never used lockboxes. Like they were in the valley a lot. A lot of people in the city did not use lockboxes. It's interesting, people have adopted lockboxes being okay for vacant property. If you have a property that has a lot of stuff in it, I probably would not put a lockbox on. But for vacant property, I mean, it's nothing to steal, so why not? And then also for leases, it's not a lot of money for a lease, right? But look, a lot of money is relative to anyone. A lease is time. That's what a lease is, it's time. So if I get a call right now on my lease from someone who does not have an agent, that's an opportunity for me to also represent the tenant, so double money, right? Listing side and tenant side. I'm gonna have to now drive to the property, turn all the lights on, open all the shades, then hopefully the person shows up.
Yes.
Then I'll show them the property, and then I have to close it up and come back. So, you know, the question is how much time it took me to go there, prepare, then come back. Then I can come here, another person calls, I have to go back. Okay, so it's just time. If someone is being represented by an agent on a lease, you may not want to be there. Unless I'm talking about vacant property. If it has stuff in it, yeah, there's a lot of work for you. You're gonna have to go. The reason that you want to do this for your client, besides the money, is because you don't want your client going to another agent. If your client starts developing a relationship with another agent, they're gonna use that agent, right? The reason to do this in the whole, besides the money, is the relationship and hopefully the future of selling your client another investment property or selling this property when they're sick of being. Sorry, bless you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's look real quick at the listing agreement. So right now we're talking about listing a property. If you represent just a tenant, you don't have to worry about this. If you represent a tenant, all you need to do is send them the rent-spree application, have them fill it out. Once it's completed, it's gonna come back to your email and you're gonna send that to the listing agent. The listing agent's gonna do all the paperwork, okay? All we're gonna do at that point is go through our KW checklist and make sure that we have everything. Anything that's not on our checklist, we're gonna add. That's it. All right, so let's look here at the lease listing agreement. Now, the way that I have filled it out, and it's in my shared folder, is a template for how you should fill it out. So again, at 2 o'clock in the morning, when you can't get in touch with me, all you need to do is go into the shared folder, go under contracts, lease, listing agreement, okay? So, and any listing that you take, you want it to start today. Okay? If you don't start it today and you post date the start date, there's a chance it can be taken away from you by another agent or someone can come at the last second and all of a sudden you don't have your listing anymore, right? Always start it today. I have more that are printed in my office right now, yeah. Let me just do this, so, I mean, don't worry, this class will be repeated.
Sure.
And it's being recorded, and, I'll always help you. Okay, today's date prepared. Whenever we have date prepared on a contract, and that's gonna be a purchase contract or a listing agreement, the date prepared is the date that's being referred to. So when you start filling out disclosures in the future on this particular property, and that disclosure, let's say it's a lead-based paint disclosure. When you fill out that lead-based paint disclosure, it's saying, this is an addendum to the listing agreement dated. How do you know what date you're using? It's this one, it's the date prepared. Okay. All right, exclusive right to lease. So the name of, you're gonna put the name of the landlords in there. They changed landlord to rental property owner. Okay, I don't know where they got this from. It just started like 5 months ago, 6 months ago. But the landlord's name goes there, name of landlord 1, name of landlord 2. Hereby employs and grants Keller Williams Beverly Hills. Our corporation name is Forward Beverly Hills. We have DBAs for Keller Williams Beverly Hills, KW Beverly Hills, Keller Williams Realty Beverly Hills. So we can get checks deposited into our bank account using all those different names. I just want to make sure it's one of our DBAs. So Keller Williams Beverly Hills is a DBA. Keller Williams Realty Beverly Hills is a DBA. All right, so just letting you know. Today's date, we're gonna start our listing. How long do we want a listing for? 180 days. Okay, so we're gonna put today's date, we're gonna put 180 days. Now, counting days, I just want to be clear, when we're counting days, if today is the 5th and we're going 1 month from now, we're gonna end it on the 4th. Right? Let's say, because you're gonna do a 1-year lease. If your 1-year lease starts on the 5th and ends the next year on the 5th, that's actually 1 year and 1 day. You want it to end the day before. And the only reason I'm saying that is because it's very important in leasing. If you go over a year, you need to have an agency agreement. Okay, the only thing that's verbal in real estate, everything is in writing in real estate except a lease under 1 year. You can get in trouble if you finalize terms in an email for a lease less than a year. Okay, so just letting you know, be really careful. Anytime you put anything in writing, be careful, but especially when you're discussing terms on a lease, never agree to something verbally. Yeah.
What's the difference between like a lease and a month-to-month?
There is no difference.
Hey, real quick, so you always put 180 days or 365 days?
Oh, no, I just wrote 180 for you,
Okay.
for you. Thank you for asking. When you click that box, it's gonna pull up a calendar.
Right, so,
So I cheated it by pressing the space bar
okay,
and you can enter text in there,
okay.
but it's not supposed to. It's supposed to be.
So my 6-month lease would end
Yeah,
off,
so today is, what?
October 4th.
So 10/4.
So it is-
11/4, 12/4, 1/4, 2/4, and then I'd go back 2/3.
okay.
What was the thing, can you repeat the thing you said, like we can get into trouble part?
Yes, leases can be accepted verbally if they're less than a year. A verbal, now, can you enforce a verbal contract? It's gonna be someone's word against the other person's word. In that case, no, but if someone overhears it, yeah, it's enforceable.
Yeah,
If there's a witness, yeah. The only thing in real estate that can be verbal is a lease under a year.
Question, what about a recording?
Recording, that's,
Yeah.
what do you mean?
Like, let's say you're talking to a client and,
Over the phone. Yeah, that's proof. Now,
okay,
did you know that you were being recorded?
is it legal?
California is a
Or you need to
two-party
disclose?
state.
You have to give consent to be recorded.
Okay,
I love those phone calls. Your call's being recorded. And then, hello, my call's being recorded. I didn't give you consent to record me. Hang on. Right? They think it's okay because they're telling you right away, you ring her. You don't want to be recorded, hang on. You don't have to. Okay. So today's date, I'm adding time. Okay, now, address. I'm putting the name of the city in there, the county, the address, that goes in there. Rent amount. I just put just for the sake of this contract here, $10,000 a month. When you fill out the security deposit here, enter it like this, put 2 times the monthly rent or 3 times the monthly rent. Don't put an amount. And the reason I'm saying that is because if you make an adjustment in the rental price, you already have permission here to adjust the security deposit, if you do it like this. Let's talk about security deposits real quick. The maximum security deposit, anyone know?
2 months.
2 months, you can't collect more than 2 months security deposit for unfurnished, and then for furnished.
3 months.
3 months, right. Now, what happens if you have an unfurnished property? It's 10,000 a month. And your security deposit is 20,000. And then they have 2 pets and your landlord wants a pet deposit. Can they get it?
Yes.
Yes.
No. That was a trick question. The maximum security deposit can't exceed 2 months or 3 months. That's the maximum. So you can call the security deposits whatever you want, key deposit, pet deposit, all those deposits, they can't exceed 2 months for unfurnished or 3 months for furnished.
What's the recourse or penalty for if
you
is
try to get more?
Yeah, or if you've already entered into that agreement,
That's a good question, because so if an agent and a landlord both don't know that they can't get more and they do ask for it, then yeah, I mean, basically all that could really happen, I guess, is you'd have to give it back if they wanted it back. Right? If the tenant came back and said, if this exceeds the maximum, then you'd have to give the money back. It's the law. So regarding the law and what's in a contract, let's talk about that real quick. Let's say the tenant agrees to 4 months security deposit. The law says maximum is 2 or 3 for unfurnished or furnished, but the tenant agrees to 4 months. It's in your contract. Tenant agrees to 4 months security deposit. No, can't do it. Can't change the law. It can be there and everyone signs it, but you can't change the law in your contract. The law is the law. The law will always rule. Okay. Now you're gonna have like landlords that try to be very clever in rent control property. So in a rent control property, as long as the tenant continues to pay their rent, you can't kick them out. So you can sign a 1-year lease on a rent control property. And if the tenant gives you a check for month 13, you can't refuse the check. You have to take it. You're allowed to increase the rent by the allowable maximum, whatever the county says is okay, or the city actually. So the city is going to publish every year the maximum allowable increase on rent control. That's the maximum you can get, but you can't kick your tenant out just because the lease ends on rent control. So you know.
Tenants pay ahead, like 6 months ahead?
Yes, okay, great question. Yes, a tenant can pay advance rent. However, I think it needs to be at least, it's either at least 4 months or 6 months. There's a minimum. If you're gonna collect, you collect first security, and then if you're gonna collect more prepaid rent than 1 month, it needs to be, I think, 4 or 6.
Additional,
So I think it's 6. I think it's 6 months to collect more than 1 month prepaid rent.
right?
Yeah, you can't collect 2 months prepaid rent plus 2 months. It needs to be 6. I think it needs to be 6. Yeah, I just called CAR about it a month ago, but my brain doesn't work.
What's the reason?
I have no idea. That's
No
good.
logic.
That's a good question. I was actually surprised about it. But I have, one of my lease clients is a CAR attorney and told me about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, thank you for telling me.
What is there an exception to where you have a family member who needs to move in a property
Exception for what?
for if you have to
You should be
move
even more strict, even more strict with your family member.
if you have to move someone out of the property
Okay, so anytime you're dealing with rent control and you have a question about relocating a tenant or anytime you have a question about that. Only one person?
Samsung.
Mine says in Spanish. I
Okay.
swear, it says in Spanish.
Anytime you have a question about evicting a tenant or asking a tenant to leave, you must call the city and give them the address and ask them if it's okay. And you have to give them the address. Every address is different. Yeah. So whenever someone asks me about a property, and it's a rent control property and they're asking me a question about a tenant, I call the city. So if it's Glendale, I'm gonna call the city of Glendale. Beverly Hills, I'm gonna call the city of Beverly Hills. If it's Los Angeles, I'm gonna call the city of Los Angeles Housing Department. Pasadena, I'm gonna call Pasadena Housing Department. West Hollywood, I'm gonna call West Hollywood.
Right.
The first question they're gonna ask me on the phone is what's the address? They're gonna type it in on their computer and look it up. So that's I always go direct to the source for answers. You know, I don't want a maybe answer. I want to get the answer and then I'm gonna ask the person's name that I'm speaking with.
So this is at the end of the lease term, when it is
Right.
time.
But I mean, his specific question was, can a family member move into a property that they own? So from
if I own the property and I have a
Yeah.
family member moving from another state and they need somewhere to live and I want to evict.
Okay, so
a
from
tenant.
my very limited knowledge, I'll just tell you real quick, because I don't want to spend too much time on it. My very limited knowledge, it is limited to who the family member can be. I think it might need to be an immediate relative, parent, child, sibling.
Right.
Also, I think you can only do it for one unit. And it needs to be the most recently rented unit. So I had a property on Smithwood here in Beverly Hills, near Office Depot on Pico. And I had an open house and a lady walked in my open house. She said, I think I'm gonna be evicted. I said, how long have you been in your property? She said, 30 years. I said, you have nothing to worry about.
Right.
It can only be the most recent tenant. She said, I am the most recent tenant.
Ooh.
The other people are there 35 and 40 years. So, yeah, so, but anyways. There's a lot of questions when it comes to leasing and your best answer is always gonna be from the city. I just want to show you how I'm filling out my lease listing. So the reason I'm putting here 2 times the monthly rent is because if we have to do a price adjustment, say to 9,500, 9,000, all I'm gonna do is ask for that price reduction in writing. And then I can automatically change the new security deposit to say 18,000 from 20,000. Because it's already here as 2 times the monthly rent.
And why would we do the reduction?
If it's not leasing.
Oh, if it's empty in here.
Yeah.
Okay,
You can't rent it. Okay, type of tenancy, check everything. Month to month, 1 year, other, 1 or more years. So that's how I fill it out. Items included, refrigerator, washer, dryer, microwave, dishwasher, range. Include anything there that can be taken out of the property. If it's not attached, put it there. The next paragraph says personal property that will not be maintained or replaced by the rental property owner. So let's say there is an old washer and dryer and there's the landlord is saying to you, I'll leave it there, but if anything happens to it, I'm not replacing it. This is where you would put your washer and dryer. Personal property that will not be maintained or replaced. Now, there's another place to put this on the actual lease. This is the lease listing. So you really don't have to worry about it here. It's actually probably better not to put it here. Anything you put here, you could be responsible for if you forget to put it on your lease. This is the lease listing agreement. So this is only between you and the landlord. Okay, items excluded. So you might have some landlords that have a storage that their stuff is in there and they don't want the tenant to have access to it. So here you could add that if that makes them kind of happy. Okay, now we get to the commission part. It's the most important part. That's a joke. It's not really a joke. Okay, RPO agrees to pay broker as compensation for services, 6%. So put in your 6% there of the total rent for payments due under the lease. And then you have another paragraph. It's really important not to miss any of these paragraphs because you could be in a situation where you're not able to collect commission. So don't be in that situation. Okay, so the first sentence says 6% of the total rent for payments due under the lease. Total rent for the term, okay? If 3C applies. 6% of the total rent for payments, okay. RPO agrees to pay broker additional compensation of 6% if a fixed term lease is extended or renewed. If you put a commission in this box, it protects you for future renewals. If you leave it blank, you're not gonna get paid on future renewals. Okay. All right, now here's another one. From month to month, you have to ask for a commission. I put here 50% of 1 month. So why would a landlord sign off on that? That seems to be like a lot of money. But you know what? It's not that much.
No.
50% of 1 month. So why would they agree to that? Because let's say you have someone who has an insurance issue. They have water leaked in their kitchen. They need to move out of the house for 3 or 4 months. They're looking for short-term rentals that are really hard to find. Their insurance company is willing to pay double the monthly rent on a yearly lease to get them out of the house for a few months. You're gonna get calls from other agents saying, I have someone that needs a short term, it's insurance is paying for it. You're gonna jack up the price, right? So that, in that situation, you're gonna get 50% of 1 month. Now let's think about this for a second. If the rent was $10,000 on a lease. So we have a monthly of 10,000. If you did a 1-year lease, that would be 120,000, right, for 1 year. You would normally get paid 6%. Anyone have 6% of 120?
7,200.
7,200, which is 3,600 each. Right? Yep. 6%, 7,200. 3,600 each. Okay, now, if you sign a short-term lease for say 15,000, that would be 7,500, pretty close to the commission, right? That's 50%. Okay, so 50% of 1 month. Now, if we go, we'll go further. So make sure that you put something there, because if you don't put something there, you're only gonna get 6% of 1 month. That's $660, 660.
Is that pretty much the average is 50% of 1 month?
50% of 1, yeah, some people put 46%. I don't know how they get to that 46%. I was taught 46%, but I was 50%.
Where did you put that clause?
That's just paragraph 3, just right in the commission paragraph. So I'm making sure that in type of tenancy up here, I'm checking all the boxes in 2C. And then here I'm putting 6%. And then I'm making sure that my renewal compensation is paid 6%. And then for month to month, I'm putting 50% of 1 month. If you don't put anything there, and you're gonna get paid 6% of 10,000, let's say it's $30,000 for, they have a 3-month lease, short term. You're gonna get 6%, 1,800, you're gonna split it with the other agent, 930. But yeah.
How is it equal to for compensation A1B, where the additional compensation hit about
Renewals. You're gonna find a lot of
imagine there's a lot of-
experienced landlords saying they're not paying on renewals.
That's what I would imagine.
Anyone I met, they say no.
So my suggestion to you is have it filled in and you can always cross it out. If you don't have it filled in, you'll never get it.
You're just looking for an opportunity.
So, right, so fill it in. And I told you a story. I went on a listing presentation on Maple Drive in Beverly Hills. It was a 3-point-something million back then, many years ago. And I brought with me a listing agreement. It said 5%, 2.5%. And we're signing listing agreement and the seller says to me, I thought commissions were 6%. I had 5% pre-filled in on my contract.
Right.
Right, I just like under the table, I was dying and I was like, I'm giving you the family discount. What am I gonna say? But from then on, I always had 6% in my contract. What's the worst they can say? Let's change it, cross it out.
For this A1B, additional 6% for the renewals.
Yeah,
Like he was asking, is it does it cause any trust issues, do you think?
trust?
I mean, why? Because,
Shouldn't you get paid? Aren't you a professional? Shouldn't you get paid for your work?
but are we talking about the same thing? I made.
You sign a 1-year lease.
Yes.
And then the
I got my
tenant says, I
commission.
want to extend another year.
And the landlord pays me again for the next.
Correct.
Okay,
If you are very lucky, you find that.
okay, but I don't know.
It's up to you. Look, this is,
Okay.
I don't want you to lose out by not filling it in,
I understand.
right? If you don't fill it in, you're not getting it. So fill it in and you can always cross it out.
Okay.
Okay, now the next thing that we need to fill out here is an exclusion period. It says if RPO within 180 days after the end of the period rents to that tenant, you're still gonna get paid, right? So let's say you have a 90-day lease listing, you show someone the property, they sent an application, the landlord denied them. Your listing expired, they hired another agent, and then that same tenant comes back again 2 months later and says, or the landlord comes back to you 2 months later and says, can you call that person that gave the application, I think I want to go with them? You're covered under this listing for 180 additional days from the end of it. Okay, this is fair because you spent your time and money getting people to the property. It's only fair that if they come back, later down the road, that you're getting paid. Because it was your effort that got them there in the first place. It's only fair. No one's ever pushed back on that with me. Compensation on subsequent sale. This is also another important thing. If the tenant buys the property from the landlord, how much commission are you getting? Put in there put in 6%. I put in 5%. See, look, I'm not even following my own advice. Put in a percentage there. I don't want to get argued. I'm putting 5% in there. If the
What line is
tenant,
that? Where you at?
this is on the same page, page one,
I have.
3E. Compensation on subsequent sale to tenant. You must check this box and then you have to put a number in there. So it says RPO agrees to pay broker if tenant directly or indirectly acquires or enters into an agreement to acquire title to the premises. Indirectly means they're family members. Okay, indirectly you can dispute what is indirectly. So, or maybe they have their company buying it, but they're associated with that company, right? So just make sure you check the box, put a number in there. The worst that's gonna happen is the landlord's gonna say, well, are you gonna say to the landlord, you're not selling, come on, this is so rare. This is just a that rare occurrence. They're not gonna push, trust me, they're not. Go for it, get that money.
So does this mean automatically at this minute, if they agree on this, they agree that we are also like acting like a listing?
Not
agent for
necessarily,
Sales?
no, it just says you're getting paid.
That's good.
Yeah, it just says that the landlord's gonna pay that commission. Okay, next page, RPO has been advised of broker's policy regarding cooperation in the MLS. Okay, here's where, this is what protects the landlord about what's being advertised in the MLS. So let's think about that real quick. The landlord is signing a 6% listing. What if you only put 1% in the MLS? That's not really fair to the landlord, right? Because the landlord is giving 6 and you're only sharing 1. So here is where this protects the landlord actually. It's saying to the landlord, I'm sharing half my commission with the agent that represents a tenant. Okay, so the landlord sees that you're obligated to put 3% in the MLS. Now this is up to you if you want to give half. There are agents that'll do a 6%, even 7% listing and only give 2.5 to the tenant's agent. So it's totally up to you. Depends how much money you're spending on advertising, photography. Right, don't forget, this is a lease listing. You're gonna be incurring expenses and the return is not as big as the sale, obviously.
And sometimes it's because to make it attractive, although you get 5% from the landlord, you put 3% for the tenant.
Good.
Attractive.
Yeah, okay. Okay, look at this one here. It also says regarding month-to-month rentals, how much are you giving for month-to-month to the buyer's agent? So I put here 50% of the amount specified in 3A2. Remember, we put in here on 3A2, we put for month-to-month 50% of 1 month, and then I'm splitting that 50% with the other agent. So now, if an agent calls me on my listing and says I have someone that has an insurance issue, they need short-term, I'm gonna tell the other agent, by the way, for short-term, it's not what's advertised in the MLS. I have 50% of 1 month and I'm splitting that. The other agent's gonna be totally fine with it because they're really trying to help their client at that point. Okay, tenant payments. This is really important, guys. Tenant payments. The following are due and payable to the property owner unless otherwise specified. First month's rent is gonna be due at execution. security deposit is due at execution, right? So that we're getting first in security. Okay, now you need to put this in here. On number 3, commissions deducted from first month and security deposit, and that's going to the broker at execution. Okay, this is super duper, super important. We collect our commissions up front. We are not in the collection business. If let's just say, let's go back to this example. Better get my calculator. Let's just go back to this example. So our lease is $10,000 a month. $10,000 a month, and it's a 1-year lease. That means 10,000 times 12 is 120,000. We're being paid 6%. Is $7,200. Splitting that, 3,600 to Keller Williams, 3,600 to the other broker. I'm sorry about my handwriting. Other broker. So 3,600 each. Now, the landlord is going to want first and security, 30,000, right? First month, 10,000 first, plus 20,000 security deposit, $30,000. If the tenant makes a check for $30,000 payable to the landlord is going to say, your check's in the mail. We're not going to get paid. Okay, this is what we do. We're going to take the 3,600 out, minus 7,200. 30,000 minus 7,200 is 22,800. 22,800 is going to go to the landlord, or let's say RPO. And 3,600 KW, 3,600 to the other broker. The total will equal 30,000. All right, does everyone get that? We're getting our commissions up front. So we're representing a tenant, let's say, and we're telling our tenant, don't make one check to the landlord. You're going to confirm with the other agent the commissions, because their commission might be higher, don't forget, right? You don't know that it's split 50-50. So we have a form. We have a form that we're using as part of our deal called the Keller Williams lease money disposition. So you're going to fill this form out. Again, this form is available in my shared folder, and it's also available from KWBH Virtual as one of our KW disclosures for leases. So this is the lease money disposition. And you're going to put the date, property address, you're going to put the security deposit, first month's rent, total move-in. So we're just going to fill it out just like that. So this is going to say security deposit 20,000, first month rent 10,000, total move-in 30,000. Then here on these lines, commission for listing office, let's Keller Williams, payable to Keller Williams 3,600. Commission for selling office 3,600, payable to other broker. Balance due to lessor 22,800. Payable to the name of the landlord right there. Okay, it says here, all checks must be a money order or cashier's check. Okay,
Quick question, like if you represent the renter and the rent is, it's like 30K in a year.
Yep.
Like 3% is nothing. It's
Right.
not gonna work.
That's correct.
So can we ask just like the half, 50% of the rent?
You can ask whatever you want.
Okay.
Everything is negotiable.
Okay.
So I just did a lease listing for a $2,500 a month lease. Like, so, but whatever it is, it's a good person that has a lot of property. He might use me to buy other property. This is relationship, so that's why I'm doing it.
And we should ask this to the real estate agent who is representing the tenant, right?
If you have the listing yourself and someone calls you to see the property, that's your client. If the agent is calling you to show the property, let them show it.
Gotcha.
Right? Unless you have to go because there's stuff in the property, then you have to go meet them. Okay, so
Jay,
yeah.
just a quick question. On the tenant side,
Yes.
Remember, I had a lot of issues.
Whether you're representing the tenant or the landlord, make sure that you use that KW addendum and get the commissions up front. I can't tell you, what I see with people that don't do it and they never get paid. Like they're getting paid 4 or 5 months later. It's crazy.
I know, but I had the same issue a couple of times,
Yeah.
remember? So would it be good to remind the listing agents to make an addendum with their landlords on this?
Most brokerages have an identical form to our KW lease money disposition.
Okay,
It'll be the same exact form, except it'll say Compass, Coldwell Banker, Sotheby's. They have the same form.
when they resist, technically, we can use this paragraph and say, why don't you talk to your landlord about this, so you can make amendments? Because you remember, they were really resisting to sign that money disposition. They have issues signing that, I don't know why. Like technically, how can we?
Anybody that has an issue with signing a commission, anything, I have an issue with that.
Okay,
Cause what are they trying to avoid? Paying me? Like really, what are they trying to avoid? They have an issue signing a commission agreement? That means they're trying not to pay me.
okay,
Or why else would they have any issue with it? Like, what's the problem?
I don't know.
So the only things that I've run into here where I have issues sometimes is when you have a management company and the management company has to show on their accounting the incoming full amount and then the outgoing expense. For their accounting, you have to show that. That's the only pushback I've had on that.
Okay,
But no, I'd say be really firm about this. Yeah.
Wouldn't they cut you a check then?
The tenant is making your check. The tenant should always be making 3 checks. The landlords and both brokerages. If you represent both sides, they're gonna make 2 checks, the landlord and Keller Williams. Right? Always.
What was the outcome when you spoke about the property management?
It was a long time ago, but I insisted that it be done like that. They figured it out.
What was the other form that you were showing? Can you repeat that one more time, please?
The Keller Williams form?
Yeah, that one, yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering, where did you get that? Was it in your folder or?
So, that's lost.
Yeah, it was
Okay,
getting
so-
really bad. I was like, wait a minute.
So from KWBH Virtual,
Okay.
Oh, okay.
when you go to KWBH Virtual, you can press this, there's a link here under helpful links.
Oh, yeah.
Approved logos, checklists and disclosures. So that's where you're gonna be able to get the lease checklist. And you're also gonna be able to get the disclosure. So let's just look at it real quick on disclosures. There should be hopefully the lease disclosures. Lease disclosures, boom, right there at the top. KW addendum to lease and KW lease money disposition. Okay, right. I don't know what this is. Mock lease invoice. Let's see what that is. Commission invoice. Oh, this is for the management company. The invoice represents commission to Keller Williams for the lease of the property mentioned above, monthly lease, blah, 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 total amount to. Please remit payment in the form of a check payable. So if you have a management company that's pushing back, this is their receipt.
Okay.
That's cool.
So the listing agent will provide the lease money disposition form or either.
So it's possible that the other side already has this form. Just talk to the other agent, about it, because it's protecting both of you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, the other agent's not gonna have a problem with this,
Right.
hopefully. I mean, why would they, but they could. Hopefully not.
Sorry, our
Yeah.
question is not this one, but it's for me. Do we have any form if the person who signed the lease, for example, will be 2 friends? They sign it together, then after 2 months, one of them is moving out. And then the landlord is okay with the one person and everything. Is it any form we can add up, or do we have to write everything from beginning to end of the contract?
If you, so anybody that buys the property,
No, for the lease. The tenant, they were 2 different people,
okay,
and now after 3 months, one of them is leaving.
yes, there's a form called substitution of tenant. Yeah, and it gets signed by everybody.
Okay, I'm very
If you have a situation where there are 2 roommates in a unit. So what I would do is if you have a situation like that, go to all forms. And you can you can sort these things by categories. You can go just for lease. If you hit lease here, it's only gonna pull up the forms that have to do with the lease. Okay, here's all. Now we're using the California Association of Realtor library. There's different libraries, but we're looking for lease. Now you're talking about a tenant situation. So I'm just gonna type the word tenant and see what forms come up with that. So maybe that's not the one. Let's try substitution. Substitute. Well, I know that there is a form for it because I use it. I've used it. I mean, I'll find it after class.
Thank you.
But I know that there is a form for it. Basically, but when you do that, the new tenant that's coming in is going to sign and initial every single place of the lease that was previously signed. So you're gonna send them the entire lease. They're gonna initial and sign every page. And that one form on top called substitution. Okay, so make sure that you add this, that commissions are gonna be deducted from the first month's security deposit and that payable to the broker at execution, okay? Now, a new thing now is that people wanna collect their rent electronically. There is a danger to doing that for a landlord because the landlord doesn't have the option to refuse the payment. Okay, so
Like this, if the rent is $2,000, the tenant sends you
tenant can pay 1,800,
eight,
right? The rent's 2,000, the tenant sends 1,800. You
Yeah.
can't refuse it.
okay, so can you ask them?
You can return it, which is what I would
Ask
recommend.
them that you owe $200.
I would recommend returning it and say, I will only accept 2,000. If you accept it and they stall you for the rest of the month, and then the next month send you 1,800 again, they can now claim that you reduce the
I
rent,
see.
you reduce the rent to 1,800.
Yeah, you told me, I mean, usually they pay half of
You
it.
don't have the opportunity to refuse rent when you get it
I see.
electronically.
I
If you're gonna collect rent electronically, you might wanna have a clause in there that all rents need to be complete in one payment, or they will be returned. Right?
Thank you.
Yeah, so there's a checkbox here, direct electronic rental payments. If the RPO permits tenants to pay by rent, like direct deposit, such as wire or electronic payment, the RPO should discuss with a landlord tenant attorney the implications of doing so, and that's because of what I just said. You know, they need to be cautious about collecting partial payment. Key safe lockbox. If checked, there's authorization to put a key safe lockbox on the property. I want to show you that form real quick. There's two parts to that form, the key safe lockbox form. The top part is for the landlord to give you permission. The bottom part is for the tenant to give you permission. You don't need this full part filled out, just the landlord, the top part. Okay? All right. Okay, so that's it. We have also permission to put a sign on the property. Don't forget to put a sign on the property. If you're in Beverly Hills, you're restricted to 150 square inches. City Hall is over there on Crescent, I believe, or on Rexford.
Yeah.
You need to go to City Hall and ask for a sign license. I think it's $18 or $20 something. And then you put that sticker on your license, on your sign. Also be cautious just about condominiums. Some condominiums will only allow that small sign. Some will allow a big sign. There's some condominiums that have a designated place for signs. You should look at it and see what other agents are doing there. So just to look what size sign you have, yeah.
You have to approach City Hall for Beverly Hills.
For Beverly Hills, yes.
Every single time.
Every single sign that you put in Beverly Hills has to have a license on it. Yeah. Now Beverly Hills does not allow signs on the corner on any public property. You can't put like an A-frame sign in Beverly Hills. So even on an open house, you're allowed to.
Just going right outside the.
Yeah, this is going right in front of the property. Yeah. Now every city has its own sign ordinance. City of Los Angeles does not enforce their sign ordinance. So you can get away with anything probably, even though you shouldn't. But I think LA also you can't put signs, but everyone does. So
Off the top of your head, do you know what Culver Cities is?
I don't know how to tell them. I don't know, but I know that I've seen a lot of signs in Culver City. So they're not enforcing it if there are. Okay, so you have those check boxes for lock boxes for signs. I mean, the commission one was just the most important one for you guys. Okay, now here's something, it's called termination of agency relationships. When does your agency relationship end? So we are not property managers. Your landlord wants you to be the property manager, the tenant wants you to be the property manager because you're so easily accessible, right? And you were so helpful. But we as agents are there to put the landlord and the tenant together. We are not approving the tenant. We're not telling the landlord, this is a great tenant, get them, we love them, they're fantastic. Don't do that. Send the application to the landlord, let the landlord approve the tenant, okay? When does our relationship end? And then you can check these different boxes. So when the tenant moves in, tenant occupancy, when you give the keys to the tenant, when you do the walkthrough with the tenant, and when they complete the move-in inspection. So I check all those boxes. I'm a full service agent, right? I'll make sure that the tenant, I'm gonna help you, landlord, until the tenant moves in. We give them the keys. I do a walkthrough with them and they sign off on the move-in inspection because I'm full service. Okay, that's what I'm doing. But at that point, once they have the keys, once you have the move-in inspection, that's it. I'm out. If the tenant has an issue, they're gonna call you directly.
JJ.
Yeah.
If the listing agent doesn't want to do the move-in inspection, like if on the lease, they check that.
If who doesn't want to do it?
The listing agent. The property has a property manager and there's a listing agent, but they at the end of like he says, when we give the keys, we're done. And he's.
The listing agent does not want to do the move-in inspection.
Yeah,
Why?
I don't know.
I don't want headache.
So, no, but here's the issue. The move-in inspection protects the landlord.
There's a property manager. Maybe, is there a specific
So
situation?
basically, the move-in inspection is saying this is everything wrong with the property. And then if it's not on that paper. So let's just go to the end of the lease. It's the end of the lease now. The tenant moved out. There's damage in the property. I need to know if that damage was there before or not. So now the tenant is, you know, so I'll tell you what I personally do. I get the move-in, move-out inspection. I get that filled out. Now, what personally, I do a video before the lease starts.
Okay.
So I will take my phone and I'll go in landscape mode. And I will say, I'll be outside the property if it's a house. And I'll be photographing the address on the property. I'll say today is October 4th, 2023. The lease has been finalized with, I'll say the name of the landlord, I'll say the name of the tenant. If they're gonna be moving in on such and such date, I'm here today doing a property condition video. And I'll look at the landscaping. I'm gonna look at the condition of the stucco outside the house, the paint on this, everything. I'm looking if there's a sconce on the outside. I'm looking at the glass on it. I'm looking at the condition of the front door. I'm looking at the condition of the screens. This is a 1 hour video. Okay, I am going inside the house and it's difficult to film what's not wrong. If everything is perfect, your eye is not going to go to it because it's perfect. This is what you need to film. You need to film everything perfect. So I'm looking at the floor and I'm catching the sunlight coming in through the window and I'm looking at angles for scratches because you can only see them at certain light. I'm looking at my phone, you know, any scratch, any nick, dent. I'm looking at the crown moldings. I'm looking at the base molding. I'm looking at every door. I'm looking at the corners, looking at cracks. I'm going to each door. I'm testing that the door lock is working. I go in the kitchen, I pull out every drawer, every single one, every cabinet I open. I open the fridge.
you make comments in the meantime? Like, this is not working, this is working.
Yeah, I'm talking the whole time.
You're talking.
I'm talking the whole time. This is the perspective of the property. I am doing this for my client. Whether I represent the tenant, or I represent the landlord, it doesn't matter. I'm taking a video condition of the property. That's what I do, and then I have it.
And
So
you send it to
I'll
everybody?
send it, yeah, I'll send it.
Both sides?
Links, I send links to it, yeah.
Perfect.
That way, at the end of the lease, when the landlord says, you're paying for this and you're paying for that and you're paying for that, I'm going back to the video and looking to see if it was previously damaged. I would say 7 out of 10 times it's previously damaged. Okay,
One more time. So sorry, you were doing that as the.
it really doesn't matter. I mean, I'm just fair. I just want to be fair.
No, sorry, I'm just trying, who are you
It
representing?
doesn't matter if I'm representing the tenant or the landlord. I'm doing that.
Okay.
I would also do it at the beginning too.
At the beginning, before they move in, before the movers get there. Because the movers can be doing damage.
Yeah.
Right? So I like fair. I'm a fair guy. If it was previously damaged, the tenant shouldn't be responsible. That's not fair. Right? Okay, so checking these boxes, make sure that you check agency. Now, by law, an agency disclosure is not required for a lease that's under 1 year. But because we are a brokerage, and we are representing a buyer, seller, tenant, landlord, we should have an agency disclosure. Every brokerage that I know of does ask for this, even though it's not law, they do go the extra step and ask for an agency disclosure. Now, if it extends past a year, obviously, it's over a year now, right? Key safe lockbox, so we check that one. Okay, so that's really it. You guys can definitely fill in everything else. Now, there are 2 disclosures that are here, a rental property owner disclosure. These are new in the lease listing agreement. There's a rental property owner disclosure. This says intended to be provided with the lease listing and with the residential lease. So this is going to be given to the tenant. It's a landlord disclosure. This is new. And this one, it says intended to be provided with a lease listing and not with a lease. So there's going to be additional information here that the landlord needs to provide to you. I don't know where all this came from with CAR. They want landlords to disclose. So there never used to be any disclosures on leases, and now there is. Okay. All right. Let's just see what other goodies I have here. So if you have a pet, there's going to be a pet addendum, but this is when we're talking about the lease now. So let's go, let's look at the residential lease real quick. So now, if we're representing the tenant, we really don't have to worry about this. If we are on the listing side, we are going to be the one filling out the lease. I do want to call your attention to this form. It's included in every lease called the rent cap and just cause addendum. Make sure that you check this box. If you're doing a house or your property is not rent control, make sure you check this box. If you don't check this box, the landlord could be making their property subject to an issue.
What's the name of the rent cap form?
This is the rent cap and just cause addendum. Okay, so I'll just show you real quick. So here it is. So here's the beginning of the lease, residential lease.
No, it's not it.
Oh, I didn't give it to you. Yeah, I didn't give it to you.
Where is it?
You know what? Let me pull up the other. I'm doing the new form editor because it's a bigger screen. Okay, yeah, this is just the residential lease. Sorry, I didn't have this one out. Okay, so residential lease. Okay, so today's date, name of tenant, name of landlord. This is a lease. Name of all occupants. If there are kids, I'm saying the ages of the kids there also. Now, the reason that you want to do this is because your tenants could have another kid. And you could be entitled to more money for that extra person. Okay. Now, the maximum amount of people that you're allowed to have in a property is 2 per bedroom plus 1. So if you have a 1 bedroom, you can have 2 people, 1 bedroom plus 1. If you have a 2 bedroom, you can have 5 people, 2 per bedroom plus 1, 5 for a 2 bedroom. For a 3 bedroom, 7.
For 4 bedroom, we got 8
4 bedroom.
people.
For a 4 bedroom, you can have 9 people. 2 per room plus 1.
Oh, really?
Applicants, right?
Just occupants, total occupants.
Oh, yeah.
Now, who do you collect a rental application from? Some people would say everyone over 18.
Yeah.
Everyone over 18 should fill out a rental application. Kind of weird when you have older kids.
Yeah.
So you're asking them to fill out a rental, it's up to the landlord. It's really up to the landlord. The place that your head needs to go is there a possibility that the parents move out and the kids stay? Because if that is a possibility, you want an application for the kid. I was recently looking at, actually my wife. My wife was helping someone move out of a property and the property was being rented by their parents 30 years ago. And when they filled out the lease 30 years ago, the mother and the daughter were named as tenants. So this daughter, 30 years later, is still on the lease on a rent control property and could live another 30 years there, right? So
That's pretty wild.
pretty wild. Just be careful with rent control. Like, you know, I would not want the kid on as a named tenant, right? I would only want them as a named occupant and not a tenant. Gotta be really careful.
Oh,
Gotta be careful.
I see.
Okay, the following personal properties, here again, refrigerator, washer, dryer, stove. This is now the lease. This is between the landlord and the tenant. So you're putting the personal property in there.
What's the form again, JJ?
This is the residential lease.
Okay.
Residential lease, that's what it's called, residential lease. Okay, so we're gonna have a start date. And then the lease shall terminate on, so you're gonna put the end date there at 5 p.m. So the reason I don't put 11:59 p.m., you know, that's crazy. I mean, I've never gotten, maybe one or twice, I've gotten pushback on that time. But usually ended at 5 p.m., 6 p.m. The people should have been moving out already. I mean, whether they moving out at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 p.m.
And one day earlier.
Sorry?
And one day earlier.
And one day earlier, yeah, and one day earlier, right. So if this start date is 10/4/23, the end date is 10/3/23. Yes, thank you. Tenant shall vacate the premises upon termination of the agreement unless it's extended. Okay. Tenant agrees to pay $10,000 a month for the term of the agreement. Okay, here, this is an important one. Rent is payable on the 1st. Always make rent payable on the 1st. If you have someone move in on the 15th, don't make the rent payable on the 15th every month. We always want rent payable on the 1st. So there's gonna be a proration. Okay, so what's gonna happen? We wanna collect a full month's rent and security deposit. So in this example, let's say we have a tenant that wants to move in October 15th and the rent is $10,000 a month. We're gonna collect rent. We're gonna collect rent for November, the full month of November, plus 2 months security. They can move in on October 15th. On November 1st, they're gonna pay 2 weeks. They're gonna pay the prorated rent. Now, this listing agreement talks about it here. It says here, rent is payable in advance on the 1st day of each calendar month. If the commencement date falls on any other day other than the day rent is payable. So that means commencement date falls on any other day. For our example, it's the 15th. The rent's payable on the 1st, so our commencement date is starting on the 15th. And the tenant has paid 1 full month's rent in advance, so they paid November in advance. Rent for the 2nd calendar month shall be prorated, and the tenant shall pay 1/30th of the monthly rent per day for each day remaining. So in our example, the tenant would pay all of November plus security, and then on November 1st, they would pay for 2 weeks.
5,000.
Yeah, okay. All right, rent shall be paid by personal check. That's fine, or wire, electronic payment, no problem. We're talking here about the monthly. We're not talking about the move-in. We're now talking about the monthly rent. So personal check, wire, okay, fine. If any payment is returned for non-sufficient funds, then we want money orders and cashier's checks, okay? All right, now here, security deposit, tenant agrees to pay, you're gonna put an actual amount there, an actual dollar amount. I put in there 1 time, 2 times, 3 times rent. If you have a $2,500 a month, you're probably not collecting $5,000 a month security, right? $2,500 a month rent. I don't think anyone's coming in there with $7,500 to start the rent. So that's gonna be a 1 month security deposit situation. So you're gonna just put a number here. So whatever that is, if it's a fully furnished property, you can ask for up to 3 times the rent for security deposit. Then don't forget to check this box. Security deposit will be transferred to the owner. Must check that box, okay? The owner's gonna get that money. All right, now this has to be filled out, move-in costs received in cashier's check. And I wrote here payable to, and I wrote C the KW lease money disposition. Remember, that was the form that says the 3 checks?
Yeah.
That's why it says here, so rent from the start date to the end date, 10,000, the security deposit, 20,000, total is 30, and it's due. You can put here a date 2 days from now. So if today's Wednesday, it's 10/4 today. If I'm doing a lease right now with someone, the date that I'm gonna put here as the due date is probably Friday. Okay, I want the money by Friday. We're gonna get, because this has to go back and forth and get signed by everybody. The money will be due Friday. And then for who are they making the check payable to? See the KW lease money disposition. Okay, that's how I do it. For return checks, 6%. For late or return checks, 6% of the rent due. Parking is permitted as follows: garage, driveway, street parking, subject to city restrictions, right? Because you could have
Must permits.
street cleaning, right?
Yeah.
City restrictions covers permits, right? Parking is included if there's a place to park. Storage, check this box down here, B. Except for tenant's personal property contained entirely within the premises, storage is not permitted. This is talking about if you have a house and the tenant wants to have a, what are those, mini storage? They want to have delivered a mini storage and put it on the property? No. All your storage has to be inside the property. You can't have it outside, all these little mini storage, right?
What in the yard if they can put it in the yard?
In the backyard?
Yeah, in the backyard.
Okay, but they need your permission, because if they are installing one of those heavy metal bins in the backyard, it's gonna cover the grass. The grass is gonna get all burnt up in that area. What happens when they move it?
But they can put the table tennis or the ping pong.
But this is just protecting the landlord's property, right? If they wanna have one of those giant storage things moved in, right, it has to come in somehow. How's it gonna go? It's gonna be hoisted over the house, right? Is it coming in through the back gate? Is it gonna scratch the concrete when it gets delivered? So the reason that we do it like this is just to protect the landlord. They can negotiate that. Okay. Okay, utilities. Tenant agrees to pay for all utilities. Add anything extra that you want the tenant to pay. If your property has an alarm system, right, you might say, tenant agrees to pay for all utility services and the following charges: optional alarm monitoring. It's up to them if they want to pay for the alarm monitor, right? Anything included with the HOA can be, you can type in there except, because if you're doing a condo and it has an HOA, water's included, or an apartment building, water's included. So that comes with the HOA. They're not going to pay that. Water, trash, sewer, those are usually things that won't be paid by the tenant. But if it's a house, you might have a tenant that does pay the pool or the gardener, right? That's always negotiable. Who's paying for the pool? Who's paying for the gardening? If you have a sub meter on the property, you know, sub electric meter. So those, okay, and now we're talking about the condition of the premises. Here is, you can check any of these boxes, but just look at them, read them. I'm checking this one. Housing provider will deliver to tenant a statement of condition within 3 days after execution of this agreement or prior to the commencement date. So that's the one I'm checking, prior to the commencement date. So I know that before they move in, I need to get there at some point and walk through the property and fill this out and take my video. Okay, then this also says tenant shall complete and return to the housing provider within 3 days after delivery. Okay, so they're gonna get it, you know, right at move-in, and then they'll have 3 days to return it. You could extend this if you want, you know, make it 7 days, it's up to you. How long you wanna give them to get that back to you, no problem. All right, now maintenance and reporting. This is talking about who's gonna water the lawn. If you're in a house, the tenant needs to water it. The tenant needs to make sure that the sprinkler timer is operating and they're paying the water on a house, not the landlord. So the tenant is the one watering. The housing provider may be the one paying for the gardener. So this is called maintenance. Maintenance is the gardener. So check appropriate box for who's paying for the gardener. If the tenant's paying for the gardener, check that box. Who's gonna pay for the pool and spa? So if the landlord's paying for the pool man, you check that, if the tenant, check that one. The following items of personal property, remember before in our lease listing agreement, we were saying the landlord is providing their washer and dryer, but if it breaks, don't call them. This is now the lease between the landlord and tenant. So this is saying the following items of personal property are included without warranty, and the housing provider will not maintain them. So anything that you put in 1C above, which was the personal property. Anything here, the refrigerator, washer, dryer, stove, microwave, dishwasher. So anything there that the landlord is not going to maintain, then you need to put that down here. Okay. Animal, yeah.
In one of the contracts, I had this issue.
Okay.
They left this part blank, and there are the.
This was blank, then the landlord has to maintain whatever's there.
Okay, then they have this long list of rules and regulations that is additional addendum that's coming from the landlord.
Okay.
And in one paragraph, it says the landlord is not responsible from any warranties of the appliances at all at house, in the house.
How thick was the addendum?
It's very long.
Very long.
Very long. So in this case, which is stronger?
I think that this contract is stronger.
Okay.
I think so. 'Cause if it was only a 2 or 3 page addendum, I would say. I have learned though, that contracts, even though they appear to be black and white, they're not. Anything can be argued at any time. I've just learned in my business dealings that all contingencies are removed. That means the buyer's gonna lose their deposit. No. Okay. I've just learned things are not black and white. There's always a good attorney can get out of anything. I mean, you see people get off murder all the time, right? So this is not murder, obviously, but contracts, there's loopholes everywhere. Okay, I'm probably gonna get banned off of if it gets uploaded to. I don't know. I've had some stuff I've said. I don't know what I'm saying, but they get kicked off of YouTube. All right. Okay, animals. Unless otherwise provided in California, no animal or pet shall be kept on the premises without housing provider's written consent, except as agreed in the attached animal terms and conditions addendum. If there's a pet coming, make sure you have the pet addendum included in your property. Okay. If you don't check anything, automatically there's no pets.
What if it's a, no. Particular like, that doesn't apply to.
Right, okay, we have to be really careful when it comes to service animal, yeah, we have to be really careful. So I know that we're allowed to ask, what is your service animal trained to do? I know that we can ask that question, whatever information they give back and we give, I don't know any more than that. I know that that's the question we're allowed to ask.
Yeah.
What are they trained to do? What are they trained to assist with? If it's emotional support, they're not really
That's
trained.
questionable, yeah.
So I just don't know the law. Then I'm calling the city.
So do you mark it there or?
I think I checked that box, so we had a pet addendum, yeah. Because without checking that box, there is no pets. Just, I didn't want you to, you can include a pet addendum and on the pet addendum say no pets.
But does the person has to disclose that he has a service animal? Because I think
I don't know.
they don't.
I don't know the law.
I don't believe they have to.
They don't have to disclose it. They
You don't have to disclose if you have a service animal?
I don't believe so, because I'm your manager.
I wouldn't be surprised at anything you told me in California. It's so tenant sided
It's
here.
the same rules for as an Airbnb manager.
You don't even have to disclose it?
I don't believe so. And you are correct. I think pretty much the only thing you're allowed to ask is
What are they trying to do?
where they train for. If you can ask for their certification.
Well, what if you have someone who's highly allergic to a
Yeah.
dog?
I think you're shit out of luck.
Whatever, they're just out of luck?
Yes.
Huh? They what?
You're just shit out of luck.
You just,
have
yeah.
to deal with it.
All right, smoking, there's no smoking allowed in the property.
Just
Yeah.
one thing about the service animal, for example, This happened to me. A tenant out said, I have a service animal. Please ask if they're okay with it. I asked them and they said landlord is strictly no animals. So is this discrimination against?
Yeah,
Yes.
It would be
Could be.
violation.
yeah.
Overlay?
Now, anytime that there's an animal coming in, you could maybe require insurance.
Yes, pet insurance.
So I have a landlord that they had a tenant who had a dog. The tenant had a guest over. The dog bit the guest, and the guest sued the tenant and the landlord. Okay?
Yeah.
So now my landlord is like, I don't want pets anymore, right?
But in the insurance, it should be indicated that
Yes, I
tenant-
have filled out addendums that say that pet insurance is, that the tenant has to provide an insurance policy that covers the pet. Any liability from the pet.
Yeah,
So-
I have a tenant who has one service animal and then just a regular dog. So
Okay.
we're making sure that they have insurance.
So
on both of them.
I just called a condo property manager, HOA, and I said, what are the pet restrictions on the condo? And they gave me a list of 20 aggressive animals. They said no Rottweilers, German Shepherds, Pit Bull.
Bulls.
Yeah, they ran through the whole gamut. Doberman, right? Okay, no smoking of any substance is allowed on the premises. If smoking does occur, and it is a material breach of this agreement. I just added in there in caps, no smoking. I don't know.
Vapors.
Wow, is this legal? I don't know. It's in the California Association of Realtor contracts, so it must be legal to say no smoking, right?
No smoking is legal, yeah.
No smoking, and Beverly Hills is totally no smoking, right? We're a no smoking city.
Nobody countries.
All right, rules, regulations. Now we're dealing with a property that's in an HOA. You need to give the rules and regulations to the tenants so they abide by them. I've even seen landlords add in their addendum that the tenant is responsible for fines if they don't obey the rules.
Yeah.
Right? So just sharing. So if checked, the property is the condominium or a planned unit development with an HOA. And then you have to check the box here, tenant has been provided with and acknowledges receipt of the copy of the HOA rules. Okay, or how much time it's gonna take you to get it to them.
Yeah.
I know, but I'll talk to you about it. I didn't,
That's it.
I know you're asking me.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, keys and locks. Tenant acknowledges receipt of, or tenant will receive prior to, I wrote at commencement. One of each key, you can have two of each key, whatever you want, and a remote control. Usually when I have a garage, I'll give one remote. If they have two cars, I'll say that you can program the visor to open it, right? We can program one of the visors. And then there's two boxes here. Tenant acknowledges that locks to the premises have or have not been rekeyed. I always check the box have not been rekeyed. That protects the landlord from the previous tenant or anyone that the previous tenant gave a key to suddenly going into the property. So if you check here have not been rekeyed, that should protect the landlord from that scenario if that does happen. Okay. Yeah.
Do you ask the
If I know for sure that the locks were just rekeyed specifically for this tenant,
Okay.
then yeah, I can check have. And if I don't know that for sure, I'm gonna check have not. And it's just protecting the landlord.
So you don't have to change
You
the
don't-
keys?
You don't have to, no. But the tenant, you need to tell the tenant that they have not been rekeyed. Right? The tenant needs to know that there may be a key out there that someone has to their property. All right, okay, so that's really it. You have authorization here for a sign. If the property decides, if the landlord decides to put the property for sale, this already says that you have permission to put your sign. It says here something about this prohibition also applies to short-term vacation and transient rentals. So automatically you have permission to put your sign in this lease.
Question, Chair.
Yeah,
If the landlord want to put it for sale
yep,
or just lease it to another person when the lease is up for the,
yep.
tenant,
Does the tenants has a right to refuse to show the property to the next either buyer or the next
So there is a paragraph here called entry.
24 hours.
Tenant shall make premises available to housing provider or housing provider's representative, that's you, for the purpose of entering to make necessary or agreed repairs. Or supplying necessary or agreed services, or to show premises to prospective or actual purchasers, tenants, mortgagees, lenders, appraisers, contractors, and others. So this is saying the tenant has to let you in. They have
to have 24 or 48 hours.
Now, that's here. Housing provider and tenant agree that 24-hour written notice shall be reasonable and sufficient, except as follows. 48-hour written notice is required to conduct an inspection prior to moving out. If the housing provider has in writing informed the tenant that the premises are for sale and the tenant will be notified orally to show the premises, then for the next 120 days, notice may be given orally to show the premises. Okay, so that's pretty cool. No written notice is required if the housing provider and tenant orally agree to an entry. If I just call the tenant and say, hey, can I show the property today? That's fine. That's orally, that's fine. No notice.
The tenant has a right to say, no, I can't show it today. You have to have, give me
Correct.
20.
Correct. Yeah, you need oral permission to show it the same day.
Yeah, you can say.
Right. No notice is required to enter in case of an emergency if the tenant is present at the time of entry or the tenant has abandoned or surrendered the premises.
What if the tenant has not paid the rent or you're evicting?
So commercial is different than residential.
No, the regular residential home, are you evicting the tenant at single family home? And are you allowed to send other people, tenant to, I mean, the tenant can refuse him because you're evicting him.
I'm afraid in California, right now, there's nothing the landlord can do.
Yeah.
California.
I know in California.
So you just have to be really careful about the tenant you're getting.
Yeah, yeah.
JJ, there's a good story today on CNN about a guy in Brentwood.
How long has it been?
It's been over 2 years. She hasn't paid him. He can't get her out and the judge won't get her out.
2 years?
Yeah,
2 years without.
and the judge won't.
And the judge won't.
Right.
Decided.
Correct. This is the California judge.
Question, if I sent the lease listing agreement to a client yesterday and I want to make some changes to it based on what you said today.
Okay. Well, that's the lease listing.
Yeah.
The lease listing agreement.
Yeah.
Like what?
Just a few other boxes marked off, putting in, instead of doing 2 times a monthly rent, I put in just the
Oh, that's
rent
fine.
amount.
That's okay.
So I could just
Don't
send
worry
it.
about
and
that.
send
No,
it.
don't worry
Just
about
leave
it.
it,
Just leave it.
yeah?
It's fine, yeah.
Or a few more boxes checked
I
off.
was just trying to make your life easier.
Tenant occupancy, and like you have a few more boxes checked off that I don't have. Maybe you
No,
can look it over.
It's really okay. It's really okay.
Yeah.
Really don't worry about it. I'm just, from experience, like going forward in the future, this
Yeah.
will help you.
Okay,
But really, don't worry about it.
And
Like, this is a lease. This is not,
right, exactly. Yeah, the other thing
now,
is.
if it's commission, if it's commission,
Yeah, so the short-term commission, that's what I wanted to ask you.
Correct, so-
Because I have Justin.
you're gonna
helping
have
me
one
write-
more, you're gonna have one more chance at this with the
Yeah.
commission.
Yeah.
So let's just.
No, the commission's fine, but
Okay. On
if
renewal.
it's like short, like if it's, let's say, just, because they said they could do 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or a year. So
Okay,
I have a different amount for each month,
okay,
or should it be commission-based?
yeah. We.
Maybe we can look it over.
She had it.
Just, guys, just real quick, I'm almost done. Tenant obligations upon vacating premises needs to be clean, obviously. Damage to premises. There is a clause here that allows the lease to be broken. If the property becomes uninhabitable. Okay, if the property is uninhabitable, the lease can be broken. If by no fault of tenant premises are totally partially damaged, destroyed by fire, earthquake, accident, okay, it just protects everyone. Now, you're gonna have, this is gonna come up in your future. What happens if the tenant needs to leave the property for a certain amount of time for repair? Like, let's say the landlord has to tent the property for term rights, and that tenant needs to move out for a few days.
Does the landlord?
You have to pay him.
The only thing that the tenant the only thing the landlord is obliged to do is reimburse the tenant for the per diem of their monthly rent. So if the tenant, if it's a $10,000 a month rent and the tenant needs to move out for 3 days, you're gonna take 10,000 divided by 30, whatever that number is, times 3. Okay, that's all they're entitled to. People think they're getting put up in a hotel. They're not getting put up in a hotel.
Right.
All right, okay, now we're talking about insurance. Here's where you put tenant shall obtain liability insurance in an amount not less than, I put here 1 million, it could be 500,000, it could be 250,000. So the tenant is gonna have renter's insurance to cover their personal belongings and cover liability if their pet bites someone. This is gonna cover that. The landlord has homeowner's insurance. That protects the property. But the tenant needs to cover their belongings. So that's where that goes. Then you have notice, where is the tenant gonna be notified if there's any issues with the contract? The tenant will be notified at the property. The landlord is gonna have to give an address where they wanna be notified. That's pretty much it. The agencies are gonna go here if you're representing, who you're representing, both sides or just one side. If checked, the term of this agreement exceeds 1 year, a disclosure regarding real estate agency relationships is attached. I'm always going to attach the agency relationship, no matter if this is checked or not. If there are any other terms in the lease, it's going to go here on paragraph 46. If it's not, if there are more terms than will fit in those 2 lines, you want to add an addendum. Okay. The rest of this is just, there's a bed bug disclosure, tenant flood hazard disclosure, rent. This is the rent cap addendum. Don't forget to check this box. The property is not subject to rent limits. Check this box. Unless you know for sure that it's rent control, then you can't check it. But I would say always check that box. If you don't check that box, so the reason I'm saying that is because there's the rent cap addendum form. There's a checkbox to say if this property is exempt from rent cap or just cause evictions. I called a landlord tenant attorney a couple of months ago and I had a question. Someone said to me, if I rent my house and I want to, you know, if I have a month-to-month tenant now and I want to get rid of them, am I allowed to in California? The first question he asked me was, is this box checked? Okay, you're renting out your house in California. It's not subject to rent control. It's a house. It says here, exempt. Single-family residential property that is alienable, separate.
Hold on.
So you have a house that you're renting.
Okay.
Right? A house. It's not rent control, it's a house.
Yeah.
Don't forget to check this box. Okay, because the question, someone came up to me and they said, JJ, I have a month-to-month tenant in my house. And they're month-to-month. Now the lease is over, now they're month-to-month. Can I give them 30-day notice, 60-day notice that I'm not gonna renew? I said, let me get I'll try to get an answer for you. I don't want to give legal answers. I called my attorney. I said, I have a question here, you know, can you give me a quick answer? He said, is that box checked? So I called them back and I said, is that box checked on the lease that you signed with them? He said, yes, it's checked. I said, my attorney said, you're okay, it's fine. You can give them notice.
Okay, that's good.
But I didn't say to him, it's not checked. That could have opened up a can of worms, right? I don't know if they challenge it, right? Because maybe they can claim that they were relying on that box. And then they saw it wasn't checked and they relied on that.
Only if it is not rent control, you check the box. If it is
If you know for a fact it's rent control.
If rent control, you don't
check it. You can't check it. You can't check it.
You can't check it.
With the rent controls, we
But
can-
now, again, remember I said before, you can't change the law?
Yeah.
So even if you do check it, you still can't change the law. If it's rent control, it's rent control.
It's been a safe side to just check it then.
I don't want to say that.
Oh.
I don't want to say that.
Oh, okay.
You said that.
Okay. Excuse me, I have, if it's not rent control, after 1 month notice, we can do something to,
No.
or no? If not rent control.
If it's not rent control,
And we give tenants 30 days notice, and but after 30 days notice, they,
right, so the only challenge you're gonna have in California is,
the same, it doesn't matter.
the only challenge you're gonna have in California is getting someone out of your property. That's gonna be the challenge. So it is California. If they're not, if they're refusing to move out, it's gonna be hard to enforce them to move out. Now, I do want to bring up lease specs, okay, real quick. If you have a purchase contract where the seller is gonna stay past the close of escrow, Okay, we have a form here called residential lease after sale.
29.
It looks exactly like a lease. It's a lease. This is for a seller that's staying 30 days or more. It's exactly gonna be filled out exactly like a lease, okay? That's for someone staying 30 days or more. Then we have something called seller license to remain in possession. This is for 29 days or less. This form is not a lease, it's a license. Okay, that means that the tenant, the seller is not considered a tenant. Very important distinction. Very important, because if they're a tenant, they're subject to landlord-tenant law. If they're not a tenant, they have a license, they're not subject to landlord-tenant law. Then you can call the sheriff and move them out. Okay. Then they're trespassing if they stay past this, because they only had a license to stay there for a certain amount of time. Then you can now get the sheriff involved in this one.
JJ,
Yeah.
if you have a.
I'm
what do you call
sorry,
those units?
hold that thought 1 second, because I just wanna,
All right, go ahead.
I just wanna share with everyone. So my thoughts are that if you have a seller staying in possession, you should have an opportunity, if you're representing the buyer, to go in there and video the condition of the property. Okay, make sure that you have the condition. Now, if you get pushback from the listing agent on going in before that, you do have the right, you have 5 days, as the buyer has, they can go anytime within 5 days prior to closing. There is that final inspection. Take out your camera and video the condition. Not because of the seller that has lived there for 25 years and they're taking care of their property. The mover, exactly. The mover can do damage. The mover can scrape the floors. The mover can bang up the walls. The staircases, moving large furniture down the staircase. Take a picture of the steps, the walls. If there's an issue, whenever you have a seller moving out, there should be a security deposit. If the seller is staying behind, there should be a security deposit that does not get transferred to the seller. When the seller closes, they're getting paid from escrow, all their money. You should have a clause that just says that escrow is gonna hold a certain amount of money until premises are delivered to the buyer, right? That money's there in case there's damage. And if there's no damage.
The buyer can't hold it.
The buyer could.
They tried to, we did that once. And the mortgage people.
Whatever you can negotiate, the better, whatever you can negotiate. But I just want to say it's better to have a license for 29 days or less than it is to have a tenant. Once they're a tenant, there can be all sorts of issues where they can't move. They're the place they were planning on going, all of a sudden it didn't work out. Now you have to deal with a tenant situation. So, all right. The most important part of today's class really is rent free. Because you're going to have your tenant fill out an application that you're going to send to the listing agent, right? So that's right, rent free. And that's really it. I'm gonna have these contracts pre-filled out. Anytime you have questions, I'm here against that wall over there. I'm happy to help. And then, yeah, we're gonna.
Yeah,
Oh, and the one place.
JJ.
Okay, Ron, one second. If there's an issue and you didn't fill out your listing agreement properly on the condition part, there's one chance you're gonna get. When the lease documents are getting signed, there's a lease rental commission agreement. This form will cover you on compensation on a subsequent sale and renewal. So this form will protect you.
What's the name of?
Called the lease rental commission agreement, and it's one of the forms on our checklist.
Okay.
So just in case you didn't fill out the listing properly, you can do this form when you're getting the lease signed.
Well,
This was great. Thank
Okay,
you.
great.
also the month one, the one that you had on here will also be on the folder too.
Month to month is the same lease. It's the same lease. It's the residential lease for month to month. Hi, Ronson, sorry. What's up?
Okay, if you have a unit and you have a renter, and the renter, say it's a airline stewardess, an airline stewardess, and they are out of town for say 2 months at a time, can she or he rent it out as Airbnb?
So the lease specifically says that they need landlord's permission.
You need
So
the
if you-
landlord's
Yeah,
permission, so.
I'm going back to the lease right now, I'm just gonna show you. So in the residential lease or month-to-month rental agreement, it says here, talks about assignment or subletting. Tenant shall not, tenant shall not sublet all or any part of the premises or assign or transfer this agreement without housing providers prior written consent. So the tenant is not allowed to sublease. They need permission to do that.
And they can
Is
evict them.
Yeah,
Is there a big liability? And should that person have insurance as well?
If
Airbnb person?
you're gonna allow it as the landlord,
Right.
if you're allowing the tenant to sublease, then, you know, there's a lot of risk to it. I would suggest talking to a landlord tenant attorney about that situation. Again, we're in California, you just have to be really careful. I don't know. What happens if there's a subtenant that moves in and they refuse to move out and they don't pay? So, you know, I want my landlord to know the what if scenarios in that situation. But
That would be
according,
an Airbnb contract between,
I don't know anything about that. I know the lease between the landlord and the tenant. So,
right.
so the landlord tenant lease says that the tenant's not allowed to do it. If you're gonna have an allowance for the tenant to sublease, you better get an attorney involved.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't even want to go there.
You don't want it. Don't touch it. All right, thank you.
I just want the landlord to know what they're getting themselves into for possible liability.
All right.
They can protect themselves. I just want them to have an attorney advice on doing. Right? Because basically they're having a master tenant and they're allowing the master tenant to create subtenancies. So it just has to be done with care.
Right.
Right. Again, it's California. California.
Yeah.
Not a quick one, but I have somebody who's been in somewhere 30 years.
Okay.
They sold the property.
Okay.
The guy had to move her out because he's redoing it.
Oh.
He said he was moving her back in.
Okay.
He took a duplex, he made it into a triplex.
Okay.
He said he's moving to the back and moving both his children in there, but she could say, and I'm like, because I own a duplex. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
no,
you can
no,
only
she
do
has
one.
first right of refusal, and he has to do one unit. Yeah,
That's what
but call LA Housing.
And she has been talking, if you mentioned your attorney.
Well, yeah, I have an attorney.
Yeah,
But call LA Housing.
She has been, she's
Okay,
been doing.
yeah, I have a landlord.
But the recent stuff is just, and she's been there 30 years and.
So I was on KMPC radio, and there was a landlord tenant attorney that I did the show with. Okay. And this is him. He's a young guy, but pretty sharp, yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to you, get her to talk to you.
Now, our attorney here represents us and the company. They don't represent the tenant or the landlord. So I don't think that they're gonna give any advice for the landlord or tenant.
Yeah,
They're only gonna protect us.
Okay.
And I think they're protecting us. Yeah, this is an individual guy.
Was it 8.4? What's the context again?
Our attorneys are here to protect us.
No, sorry, but
Basically, someone was converting their duplex into a triplex.
Yeah.
And they had to move someone out in order to do that.
The owner passed away. They sold it. The new owner came in, is gonna rehab it. So he moved.
I actually have a lot of notes.
paying for it.
I mean, Justin
She's
helped
been
me,
there
but
30
like,
years.
I don't have.
Yeah, and once he's redoing it, he took it from a duplex.
So
he-
first of all, I got this over here.
Triplex. He said he's gonna move into the back and is moving to both of his
And
children.
then I didn't put the 50% over
Taking
here.
her out. He's letting her move back in. He's redoing the whole
I didn't
place.
sign it yet, I sent
Said
it to
you
them
can move
yesterday.
back in.
This is what I
but
sent
my
them.
daughter's gonna move in. That's covered. My son's moving in.
This is the one that originally.
Yeah, that she's been in forever.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's just, and she's been trying to get answers, but I wanted to find somebody
This
else.
had me right over here though.
Short term, landlord to pay broker 600. Okay. So if you'll get 600, if it's a 6 month tenancy, landlord will pay broker 1200, 9 months. Okay, great.
So that's
You're covered,
fine.
yeah,
So what about, and over here, you told me 120, not 180.
that's fine.
That's okay?
Yeah. So now you're advertising to, this is if it sells, you're gonna get 3%. You covered yourself on that.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
awesome. Good.
But you wrote here 5%.
No, but you're getting paid 3%.
On my side,
If the tenant buys the property, you're getting 3%.
right,
You're protected.
okay. And then what about, we wrote this here. I didn't put this.
But you're covered.
I'm
The only,
covered
the
from
only
that?
thing you wouldn't be covered is if they agreed to 1 or 2 month tenants, but they're not agreeing.
They don't want that because they're
Yeah.
currently Airbnb-ing it and they're having a lot of issues with it, so
Okay.
they're trying to get someone in longer term. Okay, I think I missed this part. Most important part that you said.
Oh, yeah, okay, so you don't have to worry about it now. Just they need to know how we get paid, right?
Okay,
How we get paid is the landlord, the tenant's gonna make 3 checks.
okay. And when would I tell her that? It's a good friend of mine also.
Okay, no,
So it's
but
like
I don't think
he's gonna-
I don't think you need to worry about it until you have a tenant and they're ready to make the checks.
Okay,
Because you're just gonna include the KW addendum with that, the lease money disposition.
right,
You're just gonna give it as part of you're just gonna show it to them, like, this is how it works, like,
okay,
commissions are just deducted out of what you get.
okay. And then, but you had a few other things checked on here, 1 second. Like over here, I don't have all of these 3 checked
Okay,
off.
so don't worry about it, so this is just when your agency terminates. So it's fine, if you don't check it,
It's
it's fine,
okay?
yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
so-
what does it say? RPO knows, agrees that unless RPO will not represent RPO in the manner regarding management.
Or like here, it says upon possession, not at execution, the tenant payment.
Upon possession, at its first month's rent, upon possession, security upon this. The way that it's going to work, just the way that you're doing this, because you're the listing agent. So the way that you're doing this is when the tenant and the other agent have no idea about your listing. They have no idea. So when your tenant comes in, you are creating the lease.
Right,
And the lease has a due date for the first and security.
okay, so it doesn't matter, it's
Doesn't
not
matter. This
protected.
doesn't, you're protected.
Okay, so the rest of it looks fine.
I just like to let the landlord know upfront how we get commissions. So there's no pushback, but there never is.
Okay, so for just for the next time.
Yeah, for the next time.
And then I did this because it's not a lockbox, it's a keypad. But she gave me permission, you
Okay,
know,
perfect.
the rest it's okay? Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
you're good.
Okay,
You're
thank you. And then
JJ,
will you do another, oh, you're still on. Will you do another class on like how to send I mean, he showed me how to do, but just like step by step, like
For
what to do next.
DocuSign?
Yeah, well, that I know,
Okay,
but, it's like, I want like the whole ABC.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
chronological order, like
No, for
after
sure.
this, then people come in, then give them the paper, like, just the whole
Okay.
order.
so as far as your lease goes,
Well, this like,
Or
this is
everything.
just, this is just going.
so I'm
down
always
now.
gonna do a residential purchase agreement,
Okay,
listing agreement,
okay,
listing presentation. DocuSign, I'm gonna do it,
just cut.
it's just a rotating, yeah,
Okay.
it's just rotating, and then there are, if you go to the YouTube links from KWBH
Virtual?
virtual, there
Okay.
are uploaded YouTube videos. Yeah, because I know Serena has uploaded stuff.
Perfect, thank you.
JJ, I had a question. I had a few actually.
Uh-oh, okay. Okay, I'll turn you. Okay.
Really quickly, so if we're representing a tenant that is related to us, I know for purchasing property, we have to disclose that we're related. Is it the same thing for leasing? Do we have to disclose that?
You know what,
related?
there never have been disclosures in the lease, arena. Now, all of a sudden, CAR is including disclosures, so just because the fact that they're starting to now include disclosures, maybe it would not hurt to disclose.
Okay,
I mean, there's no harm being done by disclosures.
right.
Yeah, so
Okay,
when
and then my,
when you put your lease listing into the MLS, you can say their tenant, you can say their landlord is related to listing agent. A listing agent is related to landlord. And then if you are representing the tenant, you can put somewhere, or you can just tell the other side to please put it somewhere in other terms. tenant's agent is related. Tenant and tenant's agent are related. That's all.
Okay, and
Not a big deal.
my second question was for rent control.
Yeah.
Where do you have to go to each city website to find out if that city has rent control? Because I tried and I can't find it.
You need to call the city's housing department and give them the address, and they'll tell you.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, housing department.
The housing
Okay,
department. Yeah. So if you're asking me
Great.
for a property in Pasadena, I'm gonna Google Pasadena Housing Department. And then I'm gonna call the Pasadena Housing Department and say, can you tell me please if the property is under rent control? They're gonna say, what's the address? And they'll tell me.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Of course, of course. And if you have any other questions, just you text me or email me or call me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Of course. All right, I'm gonna sign off online, guys. Thank you for attending. Thank you.